In 1987, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the game room, Nintendo released Jaws on the NES, which was published by the company that strikes fear in the heart of every retro gamer more than any great white shark, LJN. And today we're going to reveal all the secrets and history you need to know about the first video game to bring this iconic movie franchise into your living room. And this time it's personal. Let's get started. If this is your first time here at the channel, my name is Tyler, and if you love gaming from all generations like we do here at G3, then consider hitting that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss anything. July of 1987 brought us the most critically despised film in the Jaws franchise, with the fourth installment, Jaws: The Revenge. It even holds a 0% score on Rotten Tomatoes to this day. So it makes perfect sense that our buddies at LJN would want to make a video game heavily influenced by this movie, and that's just what they did. I will give LJN credit for having striking box art for their NES titles. This image immediately made me want to snatch it off the shelf, and it shares near identical imagery with the Jaws: The Revenge poster that was still fresh in everyone's mind at the time. And check out how authentic my box is, because I even got Jaws to take a bite out of it for me, even though he wouldn't sign his real name, Bruce. And if you didn't get that reference, the animatronic shark used in the original Jaws film was nicknamed Bruce by director Steven Spielberg and the crew. He was named after Spielberg's lawyer, Bruce Raymer, and was also the inspiration for Bruce the Shark in Finding Nemo. Now let's get back to the NES game. While LJN did publish this game, it was actually Atlas who was contracted by LJN to develop the game, just like they did later with the Friday the 13th game. But Atlas further subcontracted the Jaws game to Westone Bit Entertainment, since Atlas was already developing two other NES titles that would release in November 1987 along with Jaws, and those games were Gotcha the Sport and The Karate Kid. It was Westone's first time developing an NES title, and they were under an extremely tight schedule and completed Jaws in less than a month. The lead programmer was Michishito Ishizuka, the artist was Ryuichi Nishizawa, and the composer was Shinichi Sakamoto. Westone or these individuals themselves were not directly credited in the final game, with the composer Sakamoto stating this was due to it being under subcontract with Atlas, while the artist Nishizawa said it was because he, along with the rest of the team at Westone, were displeased with how the game turned out and they didn't want to put their names on it. Now let's discuss Jaws' basic gameplay on the NES to see if these guys truly had a reason to be ashamed of this game. The premise of the video game follows closely with the Jaws: The Revenge plot, with the great white shark now found in unexpected warm tropical waters of the Bahamas, which was apparently due to the shark having a psychic connection with the movie's main character, Ellen Brody, somehow following her all the way from Amity Island in New England to the Bahamas to wreak havoc and devour her family. I'm starting to understand that Rotten Tomatoes rating now, but hey, at least it's not Jaws 3D. Yikes. You take control of an unnamed diver who pilots a sailboat and is armed with an apparent endless supply of harpoons to navigate the treacherous waters in pursuit of the frenzied great white shark, who will not stop until one of you is dead. Jaws is made up of 5 scenes you can see in this awful graph representation from the manual. The two main areas you encounter are the overhead map and the side view screens. The overhead map consists of you guiding the ship across the ocean back and forth between these two ports in order to get necessary equipment and power-ups, much like grinding in other RPGs. And like many other RPG overworlds, there are random interruptions in gameplay when it says you've hit something and you're immediately transported to the side view scene where you are a lone diver in the ocean taking on various enemies with your trusty harpoon gun and can be killed by any enemy with only one hit, and you only have 3 lives with no continues, so you better stay sharp. The manual does say you can perform a quick stop or turn maneuver if you press the A button, which I truly believe is a lie, because I can't tell any difference in the diver's motions with or without pressing A. Let's cover the important enemies and items you encounter in the side view scenes. The most common enemy you'll find is the stingray, which travels in a predictable horizontal straight line, which you can take out easily with a couple harpoons. The next most common enemy is the jellyfish, which you can defeat with only 1 harpoon, but they emerge from the ocean floor and can be quite unpredictable at times. The final common enemy is the small shark, which is the toughest enemy in the game next to Jaws, as it takes 10 to 15 hits to kill one of these little guys. And the best part about killing this enemy is it always drops the most important item in the game, the conch shell. The entire game revolves around the conch shell.
All hail the magic conch!
These shells act as currency at the ports and are essential to getting the necessary equipment and power increases to defeat Jaws easily. The next item an enemy can drop is a crab. The crab will scurry across the ocean floor quickly, so you gotta act fast. The crab will increase the diver's speed and agility until he dies, so make sure you collect as many as possible. But your speed doesn't increase anymore after the third crab. The last item an enemy can drop is the starfish, which can award you anywhere from 500 to 5,000 points. But a high score doesn't really serve much purpose in this game, so if you don't grab all the starfish, don't worry about it. The only remaining enemy in the side view we haven't discussed is the star of the game himself, Jaws. When that giant fin hits the boat on the map scene, you have hit Jaws, and you'll immediately jump to the side view where instead of heading straight to the water, you will briefly have control of the boat to drop bombs on Jaws until he touches the boat to bring the fight to the sea. Ironically, Jaws is one of the easiest enemies to avoid, and he doesn't really move that fast. He just keeps sweeping from one side of the screen to the other, and the diver is definitely more agile than the shark. You can also come up close and personal with Jaws himself in the overworld map at any time during the game. So if you're not powered up to at least level 3, you need to try to avoid that shark at all costs. We'll get into some more definitive pro tips for this fight here in a bit. The other two scenes you encounter from the side view are the bonus and final scenes. You can reach the bonus scene randomly throughout the game after you've successfully cleared a side view level, most commonly after you've defeated a baby shark. The bonus scene lets you take control of the seaplane Michael Caine used in Jaws the Revenge to drop bombs on synchronized swimming jellyfish for conch shells. For every 3 jellyfish you kill, you get 1 bonus shell, and I have to admit I have never been able to get the max of 30 kills or 10 bonus shells. The final scene is the last showdown with Jaws. You fight him from a first-person perspective from the sailboat, similar to Ellen and Michael Brody battling the shark in the movie using strobe light impulses, to make Jaws jump out of the water at just the right time to stab him with the end of the boat. But I won't spoil the ending of the game until the pro tips section. And thankfully the video game leaves out those ridiculous dinosaur roars Jaws let out in the movie. Why would a shark sound like this? And let's not forget about the mini submarine that will appear somewhere in the overworld map after you have a total of at least 20 conch shells. The submarine is fun to maneuver, and you get to fire torpedoes and bombs, which allows you to attack enemies underneath you. The best part is it gives you an extra hit point as well, since you will turn into the diver once the submarine gets hit. It's now time to share my pro tips for mastering and defeating Jaws on the NES. And after the tips, I'm going to reveal a handful of secrets for this game I had never heard of before researching this video, and I couldn't believe they actually worked. My main goal when I start the game is powering up the diver as fast as possible. So we touched on the port scenes of the game where you can upgrade your diver and equipment, but here is a quick list of how many shells you need for max upgrades. Notice you have to collect 5 shells initially to get a tracking device connected to Jaws before you can start powering up your character. Make sure to avoid shallow water at all costs by staying away from land as much as possible. The jellyfish can dash for you in an instant in the shallow, and you won't have much space or time to flee. And the same goes for the side view battle with Jaws. It can be quite frustrating. There are different strategies I've seen when fighting in the side view, but I take a more unpopular approach by staying near the ocean floor to make it easier to collect drop shells and crabs, because all of these items will vanish after only 5 seconds. Now when you do encounter Jaws, you need to be at least at power level 3 to really have a chance to fully drain his power meter. For example, at level 1 it would take over 1,000 hits with the harpoon to defeat him. Once you have enough power though, Jaws isn't as tough as you would think. No matter how fast you mash that B button, there is a maximum of 3 harpoons that can be visualized on the screen at one time. You can get around this limitation by closely following behind Jaws and rapid firing that B button, cause as soon as one of those harpoons hit Jaws, it disappears and you can overwhelm him with a barrage of harpoons in no time. And one of the most bizarre tips is that Jaws can harm you if you swim on the surface of the water, but all the other enemies can. But he can hurt you on the surface if you're in the mini sub, but not the diver. After you defeat Jaws in the side view, you'll enter the final scene, and the best tip I can give you for this section is patience. There is no time limit, and Jaws' pattern can be very random, and you have to be very precise in order to stab Jaws. Now make sure you get the shark's fin and the end of the boat perfectly aligned. And the target you want to keep your eye on is this horizontal line right here in the water near the end of the boat. Hit the A button just slightly before his fin reaches this line to make Jaws jump out of the water. Wait until you see his white underbelly and hit the B button to impale Jaws and send him to the bottom of the ocean to complete the game. You will get a quick but nice looking end scene, and congratulations, you have now defeated Jaws. Okay, so here are the secrets I just found out while researching this video that I spoke of earlier. The developers pulled a duck hunt trick on us in Jaws, meaning that you can access certain cheats by plugging in a Player 2 controller. Now, while I personally prefer playing on original NES hardware, I normally present the gameplay footage to you using my NES Classic to get clear HDMI quality images pleasing to the eye for the videos. But in order to perform these cheats with a second controller, the system needs to simulate original NES hardware, and the cheats work perfectly on my Hyperkin Retron 1 HD, and can still bring clean 720p footage for you. On the Player 2 controller, hold up, left, and the B button and reset the console. You will then find a sound test at the title screen where you can toggle through all the different music and sound effects used in the game. There are a few songs near the end of the test that I don't remember in the game, and I assume are some Easter eggs that didn't make the final cut. If you use that same combination on the Player 2 controller and reset the game again, it activates a cheat mode you can use during gameplay. Just begin the game normally after performing the reset, and if you are in the side view, press the pause button on the first controller. Now hold down the A button on the second controller and unpause the first controller to immediately exit the side view at any time. If you hold down the B button instead of the A button, when you unpause it will immediately warp you to the final boat scene with Jaws. Hit the pause button again during a side view scene and hold down the A and B buttons on the second controller, and when you unpause you will not immediately notice anything, but if you die you will find that executing that code had given you 9 lives. If you hold down the A button on the second controller when the game is paused in the overworld map, you will immediately hit Jaws, and if you hold down the B button you will instantly hit something. I seriously couldn't believe I had not heard of any of these after 30 years of playing this game. Jaws is by no means a complex game, and once you know what you're doing, you can defeat the game in about 15 to 20 minutes. But it's oddly one of the reasons I enjoy the game. Most of my experience with Jaws growing up was from renting the game. It's rare to have a game you can bring home and beat in a day or two. And back in the day of the NES, we all know that a lot of games definitely required you to read the manual to get a full grasp of the game, and my rental store never had manuals. So Jaws was a great pick up and play carefree game where you try to take down a pop culture icon, so I couldn't have been more satisfied. Make sure you share any of your memories of Jaws on the NES in the comments below. Please give this video a like, and I want to give a special shout out to Robert B for finding Mullet Boy first in our last video. Till next time guys, G3 out.